Hi, in this video we're going to take a look at a really cool way to use Animator to get different modulation values for very specific notes on the keyboard. I'm going to start by loading a factory patch in Fuser. Which is the huge D&B bass. We'll go straight to the synth and I'm going to reduce the unison voices to 1. And I'm going to clear a couple of the mod slots, the LFO and the key zone, because I know I don't want those. So I've already got a little bass line programmed and it sounds like this. So I've reduced the frequency down just to give us the basics of the bass line that we're going to create. And what we're going to do is we're going to use Animator to give us a different LFO wobble to this bass for every note of the bass line. So I'm going to start by enabling LFO sync, because we're going to apply LFO to the cutoff and we want it to be precisely in sync with our music. The next thing I'm going to do is change the speed of the LFO to about an 1/8 note. You can see in the visualizer there, it tells us we're on an 1/8 note. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up step sequencer 1 in a spare modulation slot. And I'm going to apply it to the LFO speed. Like that, just pulling it down a little bit. Now let's go over to the Animator page and take a look at what's going on over here. First of all, I want to make sure that sync is disabled, because we're not actually going to use any synchronization between the host and the Animator. I'm going to need to be in advanced mode. I'm going to change the trigger mode to note wrap. What note wrap does is it triggers a different step in Animator for every key on the keyboard. And this wraps around depending on how many steps you've got set here. If I have 12, for example, it will wrap around every octave. So let's play our bass line and you'll soon see what I mean. So you can see there that Animator is triggering a different step for every note of the bass line, depending on that note's pitch. Now, one thing I've forgotten to do is apply some LFO to the filter, because that's an important part of the sound. Okay, now let's go back to Animator. And we're going to switch to mod value view here. I'm going to put a different mod value in for each step of the bass line, and that's going to change the LFO speed, which will give us a very typical sort of dubsteppy, wobbly bass line feel. It's a really nice way of getting very separated values for every note of a particular riff that you might have programmed in. Obviously, you're not tied to just doing LFO speeds, you can do anything that's modulatable. It's a very powerful feature.